What is up? Welcome back. It's Frankie Rios with another episode, another edition of Masques Sports. Really excited for this one today. This one's a little bit special for me. A good friend, an old classmate of mine, someone I grew up with. I'm going to be having a conversation with him. I know you guys have heard of him, know of him. He has been someone that we've been talking about for a while, whether it's on this show, whether it's Jonah's articles. There has been a lot of talk about this man and the new job that he has. He has been coaching in Arizona at Higley High School in Gilbert, Arizona, and has recently taken a job at Monzano High School for the head coaching position there. And so today, want to introduce you guys to him, learn a little bit more about him, and I'm really excited about this conversation. So, without any further ado, Mr. Michael Holguin, what is up, brother?
What up, Frankie, man? Thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited to talk about some stuff. And no, thank you, man. What you guys are doing is good stuff, man. So it's exciting to be here. So thank you.
I appreciate it. There's some days that it doesn't feel like it. We're all human, and some days we miss. Sometimes we hit it right on the head, but still trucking along, and uh, it's it's worth it at the end, especially when a season's over and like the kids they have an article of or a catalog of information and highlights of what they've done. Us getting ready for this conversation, I was looking up information about you, and I just looked up 2023 Las Cruces High School football first, right? I know you played some track too, which I learned later. But there's not too much, and that's one
Mhm.
thing that hopefully in a few years, some of these kids, whether they go to the next level and play in college, professional, whatever, they have something they can look back on, right? So, no, we're chugging along, and I appreciate it. You're one of the first ones that supported us, so I
Yeah,
appreciate you for that.
yeah. No, it's been. I said you guys have done a great job, man. I growing up in Cruces and obviously southern New Mexico. It's great to have people there that care about the student athletes in the city and in the surrounding areas and are covering them. I think they deserve it. And I know when I was growing up, there was always great coverage. It seems like that's kind of fallen a little bit there in the Cruces area, but you guys are doing a good job, kind of trying to bring that back. And I know that the kids appreciate it. I'm always reading the articles. I'm always looking at the podcast. So it's you guys are doing a really good job. So keep it up.
Thanks, man. Thanks, and I know we've known each other forever. We got reconnected. It was actually my sister who called me. She's like, some man ran into my nephew and was like, this kid's related to Frankie, and it was your dad who
Mhm.
recognized my nephew and thought of me. And so I was like, I gotta text that guy. So it's funny. It's funny that he even noticed that, because I don't know how many times I've even talked to your dad that much, but um, you know,
That's just my dad, man. We always say everywhere we go in town, somebody knows my dad or my dad knows somebody. And we used to get bugged because every restaurant we'd go eat at, here comes somebody to talk to George. And it's like, dang, dad, like, do you know everybody? Like, you should run for mayor. And yeah, that's just my dad. So, it was cool that they made that connection.
right, technical difficulties. I'll ask the question again and I'll edit. Um, yeah, I want to know in your words, how often you come back to Cruces, and if you miss it, and just like what it's been like, how long you've been away from Cruces. Yeah, tell me a little bit more.
So we've been over here. Me and my wife moved over to Gilbert, Arizona, back in June of 2023. So coming up on 3 years, and we've loved it up here. I mean, I'd never even heard of Gilbert until we were going to move. You just kind of heard of the Scottsdale, Glendale,
Hmm.
Tempe, but Gilbert's a great city. It's growing like crazy, and it's been nothing but good to us since we've been here. We're sad that we're leaving because it's a great place, but I think sometimes it's the people around you that make the place good, and so we're moving back home, and or at least closer to home,
Sure.
and so kind of talking about cruces, right? Like that's one thing that we definitely have missed. The food, I know, like nothing compares to the food over there. We're constantly trying to go to restaurants and find different places to eat. And every time we go to Cruces, we stop at Andales. Right? Like I think we eat there like 3 times, before we head back home on a weekend. It's crazy, but no, we definitely, I missed it, missed the community. It's just home. I find myself driving, around town whenever I'm there, just running errands, and there's just memories everywhere, right? Like it's just nostalgic. And so, Cruces is always going to be home, and it's a special place. And that's where both of our parents, well, a lot of our family are there. And so it's just, that's home, and it always will be. And so, yeah, we definitely miss it, and we're excited to be closer, not back, but closer.
Right,
The
right.
3 hour drive will be a lot easier than a 6 hour drive. So,
How
yeah.
did you get to Gilbert? How did you land there? Was it you were looking for a job to coach specifically, or uh, teaching came? What
Um,
came first?
Yeah, so it's funny. So when me and we did everything so fast. My wife had finished school, and it was her job that brought us up here.
Okay.
She works in the medical field. She was the money maker, and so it was one of those where, as a teacher, it's like, well, I'm not gonna hold us back. Like, let's go make some money. And so she had gotten a job opportunity, and so whenever we had decided to move out here as a coach, as a teacher, it just kind of made sense. I wanted to keep coaching. I wanted to
Hmm.
stay in the schools. That's what I do for a living. And so I just sent my resume out to every coach that was in the Gilbert area, and I started interviewing. I think I interviewed at like 5 different high schools. Obviously, it was like, hey, I'd love to coach here. I also need a teaching job. And it just so happened that it worked out where Higley High School had everything that I needed. They, needed a DB coach, needed somebody to come in and help with the defense, and they had a position for me. I'm a special education teacher, and it was a new position that I wasn't sure about, and it's ended up being the coolest job that I've ever done as a teacher. I'm going to definitely miss it because I love those kids, and it's a great group of teachers that I worked with, and so it just worked out. It all fell into place, and it's I think sometimes when things work out that way, it's you kind of have to just kind of follow that. I kind of believe that my wife always is like, things happen for a reason. God has a plan, and everything that's happened so far, it's always funny the way it happens, but it
Hmm.
works out. And so, you're gonna trust in God, and that's what we did. And it was nothing but a blessing these last 3 years.
And you guys were pretty pretty successful as a football program. Uh, and and it's always nice, right, when you're able to. Were you teaching at the high school as
Mm-hmm.
well? Okay, so you were around the students. They were doing pretty good. I was following you guys on social media last year. You guys had a pretty good run. Um, what was your favorite year? What year did you guys go the furthest in? Because in those 3 years that you were
Um,
there.
You know what's funny? Like, I don't know if I have a favorite year. I have favorite moments from every year. My first year in the 23 season, we actually won the 5A state championship. And so that obviously was awesome, right? But it was my first year. I wasn't very close to all of the players on the team. I got pretty close to some of the seniors in that group. So that was special just because we won state. The game came down to the very last play, two-point conversion. We stopped them on the goal line. It was awesome. And so, that one sticks out. Also, last 2 seasons ago, here in Arizona, they have what's called an open division for playoffs. And so there's so many schools, there's so much talent. The top 8 overall teams, this year was the top 12. They go into an open bracket. And so whether you're a 6A, 5A program, if you're one of those 12, you play in that bracket. And so 2 years ago, we were fortunate to be in that bracket as a 5A school. We eventually lost to the reigning state champs and then the eventual state champs again. It was a good game, but we had a lot of injuries second half, and it turned into not so good game. And then this past year was, kind of the year that I was really close to that senior group. I had them for 3 years since they were JV players all the way up to varsity, and that one was special. We lost in the quarterfinal round, unfortunately, to the eventual state champs. Um, and yeah, it was special players, blessed, some tremendously talented individuals. That's just the thing here, right? Like, one of the awesome things about where I was at is people care about football, people care about sports. Our administration here, they want our coaches on campus. I think if I was still there, right, they have, I think every one of our varsity coaches but one teaches or works on campus.
Oh wow.
We have a whole JV staff that also work on campus, and plus the freshman staff. It is great support. The parents are all about it because everybody wants their kid to go to the NFL or go play college ball. So everybody still kind of is all about that life, and it's great. And so obviously, leaving this program it was a tough decision because it's a great program. It's one of the I think it's one of the top 10 programs in the state. But had to go chase my dreams and kind of use what I learned here, and hopefully can kind of take it to Monzano.
Do you, it sounds like there's a different culture in general about football as a whole, right? And I think Albuquerque has a little bit more of that in at least the state of New Mexico, where there is, you have the Clevelands, the La Cuevas, who, the expectation is for you to be a successful football program, right? Was that a culture shock for you to feel that when there's that much attention, there's also that much more pressure for you to be successful
Yeah,
and to really produce in the way that you kind of carry yourself? Um,
you know what? I remember my first year here, I think I overthought it as a coach. I came in, and the DB room that I had that I was coaching, so I was coaching the corners, the safeties, um, all four of our starting defensive backs all went on to play college ball. Now, I've never coached anywhere where I had more than one player in my group that went and played college ball. And so I remember coming in, and I was kind of, I think I overthought it for myself. Like, oh, these guys are
mm,
going to go play college ball. They're these tremendous athletes. And at the end of the day, like I said, I overthought it. They're just kids, just like everybody else. I think the difference is, you know, and this is everywhere. Some kids are just more talented than others, right? And some kids just have that God natural gift ability to go out and perform and you know play a sport and be amazing at it. And so yeah, there was a little bit of pressure. I think I just put it on myself more than I should have. But one of the things, right, that really prepped me was my time at Cruces, right, where as a player, we were told as freshmen, if you don't win a state championship, you failed. And that's plain and simple, right? And so I always wanted to coach somewhere where there was that pressure, where there was that expectation, because that's all I know. I've always craved that. I've always wanted
yeah.
that. And, in my time at Centennial High School, that was still kind of like a growing program. I obviously haven't been there in the years since, where they've just been consistent contenders year after year. At my time at Oregon Mountain, it was kind of a struggle, right? Just to get that program going, right? And having the expectations of winning, that culture is, I think it's so hard to develop if you've never really won. And so it was great to come somewhere where, man, we're supposed to win, and
Yeah.
you're supposed to be really well coached and really well prepared. And so I know it's just made me grow as a coach, and I'm definitely better for it because like I said, my first year, I think I was a little bit too overthought it a bit, and it's like, hey, it's still just football, and they're still just kids, and just go coach them hard like everybody else, and respect them and grow relationships, and everything works itself out.
So you spent time with Coach Ocampo at Centennial and Oregon Mountain?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was at Centennial High School when I was, I think I just turned 20, or I just turned 21. Coach Ocampo had given me a chance to be the varsity DB coach, and I was the JV defensive coordinator for 2 seasons there. Also coached track there as well for 3 years, and so I was there when they made the change from 5A to 6A.
Okay.
And so I remember our first year there, we actually played Monzano in the playoffs, and we were the higher seed, and they came down to Cruces and they beat us. And that was the year that Monzano went on, and the next year they won a state championship. And so I was there during that time, and then from 2019 to 2023, I was at Oregon Mountain. That's where I
Got it.
started my
Got it.
teaching career, and then I was coaching there under Coach Steve Castile. And I kind of did everything there. I was freshman head coach to the COVID year, varsity coach, and my last 2 years I was the varsity defensive coordinator and assistant head coach. And so wore a lot of hats during my time there. So
I went to Cruces, but I graduated from Oregon Mountain or Oñate at the time, and
hmm
it was just it was so challenging. I'd see the guys that are walking in the hallways, and I'm like, bro, why don't you play football? Like you should. And they told me the same thing of like, why aren't you playing football with size and athleticism? Basketball is doing great, and it just there wasn't enough guys out there to play. Because for me, what I see is you need a team that goes out and plays, right, and loves the game, um, and it's just a different culture there. Would you agree with that? What are your thoughts?
yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree with it. I think that I can speak on my time when I was there. I think one of the most things that we struggled with, we had a really talented group that had for 4 years. So from the freshman year, we actually won. They were the city champs. Their freshman year, they beat the Cruces, the Mayfields, the Centennials. I mean, we thought like, hey man, this is a good group here. I think the hard part, right? We had a COVID season that never helps.
Yeah.
Um, and but to me, I think the biggest challenge was always the commitment level from players, from coaches, to have those expectations of, man, guys, we're coming in here to win games. And I can speak. My time as a player at Cruces, we never thought about missing the playoffs. We just knew we were going to the playoffs. We never thought about losing to Oñate at the time. We knew we were going to beat Oñate. You know what I mean? Didn't mean we didn't work hard and prepare, but the mindset was there, right? Where it was state champs or bust. Where at Oregon Mountain, we'd play some teams and we'd play real well, and sometimes we'd go and play the Cruces, the Centennials, and I used to tell the kids, man, if we change their jersey to a Gadsden jersey at the time, you guys wouldn't be playing scared. We'd be playing tough, right? And obviously I don't mean no disrespect to Gadsden. They Coach Foster and them are tearing it up right now. I remember my last year there, they were starting to get that thing going, and they almost got us. And so yeah, nothing but respect there. But so I think that was just the big thing was the culture of winning, the toughness, the mentality. We'd be getting into games and they'd be close games and we'd lose, and I think it had to be, it was the mentality, and I think it's hard when one thing I used to say about Cruces was every coach spoke the same language. It didn't matter which coach it was. If Coach Miller got on you, Coach Lopez told you the same thing, Coach Jay echoed the same thing to you, and it's like you weren't safe. You had to get it done.
Right.
And the players as well. We coached each other, we held each other accountable. And so, but that's hard, right? I think it's hard to build that. And Oregon Mountain's still struggling with that, and so because you're right, every other sport they do well in. So there's no reason, there's talent like crazy at that school. Why can't football be successful?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know basketball. We follow basketball, and they do great. They always have talent out there. I mean, even this year, the 3 point, the most 3 points ever made in a career was broken this year with
With Emmett
Emmett
McDaniel.
Emmett McDaniel. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
and so it's like Johnny McCann's came from there. It's like, why didn't you throw that boy a freaking tight end? Come on now, you know. So
Yeah.
it's there, and I'm excited to see what Coach Mallory is able to do, and there's a lot of trust there with him being on not only on the staff for football, but what he does with track and stuff. So it'll be interesting. I'm rooting to see what they do there, but I want to know what your perspective was because you were there with the prior squad that was coaching, right? So now, and I want to go back to, I mean, you're a state champion, and that was really cool. I was at that game. Like I said, I grew up. I went to Zia, and a lot of those guys went and we all stayed together that freshman year that I played. That core senior class was there, um, and went undefeated, right?
We
Um,
actually we lost one game. We lost to it. Still hurts. I can't stand the school to this day. Is Rio Rancho.
okay.
They yeah, they got us up there in Rio Rancho. I think the score was like 42-21, and we were hoping we'd get to play them in state, and they actually got upset in the quarterfinal round. And so that one still, we never know, right? We always wish we got to play those guys a second time. So
Are there any guys now? I'm trying to think of the guys that are still around that maybe teach, that maybe you would like to be like, hey, give a phone call, like, you want to come coach? Do you have a staff now where he's like, what? Do you stay connected with some of those guys? I see John Joy every once in a while. I see AJ Lucetto sometimes. So there's a couple guys from that class that I see. Do you stay connected with any of them where it's like, hey, come on, man, if anything changes, I got a job for you. Is that something you'd consider?
right. Oh man, I wish, right? I wish I could just assemble a staff like a
Right.
college or an NFL team and just pay you a salary and come coach football. If that was the case, then I think we'd be, we'd be loaded, because no, those guys are my best friends to this day. Jonathan Joy, that guy's my best friend. He's a brother. Definitely stay connected to him. AJ Lucetto, another brother. You know what I mean? Like, guys like Mikey Calzada, Chris Rojas, Jesus Martinez, Jacob Benegas, right? Like those guys are constantly in communication with. Unfortunately, they're not teachers, so
Yeah, yeah.
unfortunately can't
I
bring them
think the
up to
closest one
Albuquerque.
maybe
But
Jacob, but he's doing a bunch of stuff now,
you
so
know
it'd be
what?
hard
And
to
so
convince
what?
him.
Well, what we're doing actually, we're working on it. It's not finalized yet, but we're working on having him run our strength and conditioning program there at Monzano. And
Really?
so, yeah, he's doing some great stuff, and I can't wait. I've always wanted to have him do that if I ever got the shot to be the head coach. And so we're it's in the works right now. It's not official, but it's definitely in the works. So yeah,
How would
but
that
no, the rest of those
work?
guys, I wish.
Without saying too
Well,
much, I don't know. I don't want you to
no, he
leak any
just
info for the
with
state.
no, with this company, there's different things that they can do where they can connect with us and they can get the job done at a high level. And obviously, a lot of it falls on me and my staff there at Monzano. And
Right.
so we're excited to get it done and kind of let the players have a program where it's preparing them and their bodies to go be the fastest, strongest they can be. And the weight room is, I think, where you win games, right? You could be the most talented kid, but if you can't put on some weight, if you can't run, if you can't change direction, forget about it. I've seen guys bench 500 pounds and they can't push a guy 1 yard. You know what I
Right.
mean? So there's, with the science of sports and the lifting and everything like that, and the sprint mechanics, I trust Jacob to get it done for us. So I'm excited.
Bro, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know that that's what you were working on. So I see his stuff on social media and his explanation for this is the workout, this is what it's doing, and this is what it's for, right? And so I think even when you're going through an exercise, you're like, all right, I'm gonna just do this to get it done, right? So that coach just doesn't get on me. Be the fastest one done, so that you're not at the back of the line, which is where I usually lived. um, of like, I just need to hurry up and get this done so that coach doesn't see me slacking. But if you can give
Mm-hmm.
an explanation of this is what we're doing and why we're doing it and where it should hurt even or what you should be feeling right now, that's huge. That is awesome. That's a huge plus for your program, and for those
Mm-hmm.
kids, because that's D1 level training right there.
Hmm. Yeah, no, we're excited about the partnership. So again, we're hoping to make it work and get it finalized. But that's the plan right now. So you know,
Cool. What was your responsibility as a DB coach as far as practices and just how you structured your practice? And will it look the same? Will you kind of use more of the structure of what you have most recently now? Kind of a
I,
assembly of everything that you've learned from Ocampo, from Coach Miller, and then your time in Oregon Mountain. Like, what is that structure going to look like, and what is the best way for a practice to run?
you know what? I think the best way for a practice to run is fast. It's got to be fast. It's got to be up tempoed. There's got to be high energy. You can't exist in the days anymore where you're at practice for 3.5 hours and expect 15 to 17-year-old kids to pay attention and work hard, right? And everything is so fast. You know what I mean? I get on my phone now, even myself, as not a young man, but kind of in the middle there, right?
We're getting old,
Where
dude. We're
if
getting
I
old.
dude, exact, but if I got to look at a video that's longer than 2 minutes, I'm probably not going to watch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing with these kids, right? You got to have your drills prepared. You got to move fast. You got to coach with energy. And the conditioning should be done in practice, not afterwards, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so the way I'm going to structure the practice is I'm not going to get into specifics, but we're going to be moving fast. We're going to be busy. We're going to be working. We will have times where we're walking through things and explaining and coaching and teaching. But after we've installed it, it's, pedal to the metal. Let's go. You know what I mean? Let's get a good sweat in. Let's get a good workout in, and let's get you out of here in 2 hours. That way you can go and be a kid and enjoy your time and get some rest and get your schoolwork done. And so I can't wait. I'm blessed to say that I've worked for some great head coaches. I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. I plan on kind of stealing things from everybody. And as a player, I think there was some great things that we did there at Cruces, but every program's different, right? And so obviously at Monzano, we got to figure out what works best there, especially with the players that we have. But we'll get it done. We'll get it figured out. But yeah, practice is going to be fast. It's going to be fun. It's going to be energetic. There's going to be music playing. If you guys ever get a chance to go down there and watch, I invite you guys, because I'm sure it'll be
Cool.
something you've never really seen before. So I'm excited for it. So I can't wait.
I just saw a clip. A college coach was saying that he doesn't play any music in the locker room or in the
I
weight room.
saw that clip.
And
I
he's like,
saw that clip.
you don't need little baby to play hard. And like
Yeah.
some of the comments were like, transfer portal's going to hit hard for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so that different philosophy, but it sounds like for you, having not having fun, but also just like it does having that music. I remember Hot 103 was playing in the locker room at Cruces, right? And that's what we were
Mm-hmm.
listening to. So you'd have the commercials playing and you're trying to hit a max, you're like,
Exactly. Right. Very
um,
good.
but who's
Um,
who's going to be in the aux? What are you going to play? Is there certain type of music? Do you have that down to a science?
no, I don't have that down to a science, but you know what I want to do. One gripe that I have at Higley, and we used to tell our head coach, like, "Come on, man, it was the same playlist daily," and so by week 3, it was like, "Coach, we got to change this thing up." Like, I'm singing the songs not because I enjoy it, but just because it's just kind of
You know
programmed,
it.
and so I'd like to have just kind of like special genres per day. You know what I mean? Like a throwback 80s rock and roll heavy metal music day, get that energy going, get that energy flowing. You could even have a country day, right, where you kind of mix it up. And it's not nobody's really getting maxes to country music, but it just changes things up, right? I'm gonna put my 2000 throwbacks playlist because that's what I listen to. So I'm sure all my coaches will appreciate that. And then we'll have, obviously we'll play the little baby. And I don't even know who all the artists are today. I can't even, I walk in and
Yeah.
they're jamming out to it. So we'll play it. I don't think I'll enjoy that day as much, but I'm sure there'll be a song I get into. So yeah, we'll just mix it up. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, if Jonah was here, I get most of my new music from Jonah. I still
Mm-hmm.
listen to Lil Wayne, 2000s Drake, Take Care, bro. Hit the motto.
Dude.
Oh, yeah. Still that's what's on my phone. It's like I stopped downloading music after like 2012.
Oh
But
yeah, no, that's basically what it is for me.
yeah.
So I agree. Mm-hmm.
Well, I wanna know if you could talk a little bit just about like if it's not the staff. I know the article that Jonah just released. You kind of talked a little bit about what your coaching looks like and what are you most excited about um, coming into this program who that has had success before, but is it coaches, some of the players? Tell me what you're walking into, what you're excited about, and what maybe some of the first changes might be that you present to Manzano.
You know what I think we have a really talented group. From what I've been told, again, this is just from the coaches that are there, the prior head coach. There is some talent. I know we bring back a really talented defensive end, tight end, name's Vinny. He was actually in my interview. Outstanding young man. When I've got to talk to him and kind of be around him for a little bit. He's a two-way guy. We got a running back. Kind of plays running back, receiver, kind of a utility do-it-all player that comes back, and he just broke the high jump record there at Monzano this past weekend at their track meet. So athletic dude. He just posted a video of him dunking the other day, windmill dunking. So anytime you got a guy like that, you got to get the ball in his hands and just let him
Yeah.
go make plays. And there we got a slot receiver coming back that I know of. We got a couple linemen, which is always good, right? I think you're going to be successful if you don't have the guys up front. And so I know we bring back our center. He's a pulling center, which is always kind of rare if you can get your center to pull. You
Yeah.
got an athletic guy, so I'm excited about that. I think we got some young guys that they've been working hard. They've been kind of waiting for their time to have a shot. So I'm excited about that group. I just can't wait to get started with them. I think that's the hard part right now is just that limbo period of they know who their head coach is, but the head coach isn't there working right now. I gotta have that teaching job set up for me there, and so. But once I'm there, I think one of the big things that I'm excited to kind of get going is our culture. And culture is a word that gets thrown around everywhere, right? But we're going to put a big emphasis on what we do. One of the big things we're going to do is we're going to have the Monarch standard. That's going to be our culture. That's going to kind of be our brand. It's kind of our core principles. When we talk about, being disciplined, being accountable, playing with toughness, but also having fun. I think that's one of those things that I've learned over the years is it can't just be the rah, hard nosed, yes sir, do what I say and just get it done type thing. You have to there's a space for that. You still have to be disciplined, you still have to be held accountable, but you got to have fun. You got to let the kids know that you care. You got to let them know that you're there for them more than just because they're a football player. And so I'm just excited to get that standard going, the Monarch standard that we're going to be having there. It's gonna be some good stuff, and I hope the kids enjoy it because again, to me, we want to win games. I want them to go and graduate and be great human beings. I want them when I see them 10 years down the road, are they good husbands? Are they good fathers? Whatever job they're doing, are they successful? That's success to me. I if we win a state championship down the road, we win games, fantastic. The end goal is what kind of man are you going to be? So
Yeah.
that's what I want the program to be.
You just mentioned something. I let you talk, but it was like the first sentence you said. You said this tight end kid was in the interview that you had. Is that normal? How did that happen?
You know what?
He's just that good. He's like,
I
you're part of this.
no, so he's been in a. I know that some schools do that. I've been in some other
Okay.
ones where that's the case. I've been in some where there's not.
Hmm.
I think it's a positive thing if you pick the right kid, right? You got to pick somebody who, kind of I think is a little bit more mature above their years. Just because, I mean, I think if they would have picked me when I was 18, I don't think I would have handled it correctly. You know what I mean? So, but I no, I enjoyed it. I think it's a huge advantage that he was in the interview because that's who I'm going to coach. So
Yeah.
if I can sell him on my program and my vision, then man, you know what I mean? Like that's going to be my biggest advocate in the room. And it sounds like he was. And so very grateful for him and excited to get him the ball a couple more times, get him a couple more touchdowns. So
Yeah. You're like,
we'll
hey
see what
man, here's
happens.
this play. You like that? You like that?
Exactly, exactly,
I mean, that
exactly.
says a lot about Manzano's uh, what their focus is, right? Because they want their kids to be part of the decision. Obviously, you're more of a long term position. He's a junior. Is he going to be a junior or is he going to be a senior next year?
He's gonna be a senior.
Okay. So, I mean, he's 1 year. So you can't weigh the entire opinion on that, but it's really neat that they still brought in a kid who's like, hey, what do you see, right? So that's really cool. I didn't know. I've never applied for a job like that before, where you
Mhm.
know I've never coached, so I didn't
Right.
know that. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and no, I mean, just I think being a a good person and learning discipline. I always say sports is a good analogy for life, right? And when things don't go the right way, what do you do? Making those decisions, everything matters. Uh, what do you do when the score is 42-20? And you're down, wanting to see your guys still put in effort, because
Hmm.
life is hard, bro. Life is hard, and if you have
Yeah.
an example of that, that you've faced in it's a game. At the end of the day, it's a game. So I
Yeah.
I, I really like that.
I think I one of the best relationships I've had with a player. There's kind of an example of that. When my time at Higley, I coached a young man named Easy Brown. Fantastic kid, fantastic young man. He went on. He's playing college ball at Concordia in Minnesota. It's a D3 school up there.
Mm.
And his senior year, I was his coach, and great young man. But I coached him hard. I held him accountable, held him to a certain standard, and unfortunately, had to bench him, had to sit him down. One of our games, and he came to my room and kind of pled his case for why he should play, and I sat him down and we had a heart to heart, and it's been one of the best conversations I've ever had with a young man where I'm sharing my personal failures, my personal stories, about what football has done for me and how it helped me down the road in my life. And kid went out and was the best teammate he could be that day to his teammates, and went the rest of the year and tore it up. And is just a great kid, and I think he grew from that. And I know it's going to help him down the road when life does hit him, because I mean, you just said it. I've been kicked down. I've been beat down. There's been, adversity that I've dealt with in my personal life. And, it's like my dad always said, man, you just got to get up and shake it off and, roll on, move on. Life doesn't wait for anybody. So get to work.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned your dad. Was there a coach or someone that you had that type of conversation where the role was reversed that you remember?
You know what? I've had so many great coaches, right? And they were fantastic, coaches. But, I think that's one of the things that I've tried to be as a coach is how did I wish my coaches were with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I think I said earlier, right, that the expectation was to work hard, do things a certain way, and if we won successful, then great. And but I didn't have a lot of heart to hearts with my coaches, and I think part of that was on me, kind of feeling that there was a boundary that I wasn't allowed to kind of step into, which I regret. So a lot of my coaches, Coach Miller's been tremendous. Coach Jay has been tremendous in my coaching journey. They've sat down with me individually, invited me to their homes, helped me, guided me later on, to teach me some things, right? Where I'm super grateful for them. And I've worked for some amazing coaches who have poured into me as an individual, right? But no, I think at the end of the day, it was my dad. I coached because of him. He was a basketball coach, and he used to take me to practices when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, and I'd be running the suicides with the players, and he told me get out of the way, and I didn't listen, and I'd get run over, and he'd say get up, suck it up, dude. Like told you to figure it out, and he let me run my drills, and I'd go to the banquets and get my little trophy, and I just remember those were the early days on when I was like, man, I wanted to be like him. And, he's my hero in terms of just how I want to be as a man. So I think I lean on him for everything. I call him almost daily. I think I kind of annoy him because I call him up and he's like, what do you want now? But I know one day I won't be able to. So I kind of cherish those moments, and a lot like with my mom as well. So um, they're just they're special. I wouldn't be who I am without them. So, yeah.
That's cool, man. That's good to know. I wanted to ask a question. I think it's changing the subject a little bit, but one thing that I remember when we go into the locker rooms when we're in cruises, you'd have the news clippings, and some of them were not even real. I think Coach Hall would just kind of post those up there. Is there
hmm
what's gonna? But it was the way that he would motivate the players, right? He'd be like, running back, Xavier Hall sucks or something, right? Like, and it's just like but it was like clearly now looking back at it, it's like he clearly made that. What is
hmm
there going to be any little tricks like that that you use to motivate the guys? Obviously, not fabricating information, but is there anything fun that you do to get the guys going? Maybe like early in the week, because it was on Mondays, he'd put up something, right? And then so it'd be the game plan, and then you'd go out and practice. But that Monday morning, you'd have some type of clipping. Everybody had it on their locker. Is there something that you do early in the week to kind of this is what the focus is this week at practice is what we got to be thinking about.
Yeah. So one of the big things that I plan on doing, right, is like I mentioned earlier, our Monarch standard, right? So always kind of using our standard and using what our expectations are as a program throughout the week with our players and emphasizing that, you know what I mean? Going over the standard, what to expect, applying it to real life situations, you know what I mean? So, every letter in our standard means something. The M is mental and physical toughness. The O is ownership, discipline, accountability. The N is never outworked. So you have different things like that where my plan is, when we start the season and we start going every week, we're kind of, you know, going back and using that as a reference to how we're going to approach the week. You know what I mean? Using it to develop lessons. That's one thing that I want to do is the football time is my classroom, right? I'm a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do. I'm an educator. So, and it can't just be football, 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 right? And so I can't wait to get up there. And I'm a big movie guy. I'm going to be referencing movies like crazy. Let's watch this clip. What happened here? What's the message here? How can we apply that to what we're doing, right? Find real world events that are going on and
Yeah.
kind of
Mm.
take their mind away from football because it's about life, right? But using those things and using those lessons to kind of revert back to what's going on that week, right? What the game plan is, what the mindset should be, right? Because I think everybody gets their game plan, and we got to stop this guy. We're going to run these blitzes. We're going to put in these 10 plays. Well, that's okay, coach, cool, but how are we preparing for the adversity like you talked about, right? When things hit the fan and it gets hard, because it will, right? What are we going to look back on that's going to propel our program past other ones? And so those are kind of the things that I hope to do moving forward. That hoping that the kids kind of connect with it. So
What's your favorite football movie?
favorite football movie. You know what? It's got to be Friday Night Lights. I used to watch that movie before every football game. I still every once in a while. I'm a lot more busy now as a father and a husband and right with a job, but kind of pull up the clips every once in a while before a game and kind of watch it. I used to go home and had a whole pregame routine, and that was always the one. And I loved it because it's not the one where you win at the end. They lose, and a lot of times I think we lose more than we win, right? That's why the wins feel so good, because we fail and we fail again and again. And eventually when we win, it's like, heck yeah, man, but you got to fail first. And so I love that movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a minute. It's been a while for me, but I like that. So your boys should be expecting to watch that one at least once the first season,
At
right?
least, yeah, we'll
At
we'll
least
pull
one.
up some clips. We'll pull up some clips. Yeah, I'll have to get the Varsity Blues, the Billy Bobs in there. I'll have to get that stuff out there. So it'll be we'll have a plethora. We might show some Waterboy stuff with Adam Sandler and talk about getting to the ball and getting after it. You know what I mean? Be the water boy. So I can't wait. So
I just recently watched Division 3. Have you seen that movie?
Division 3.
You got to. That one's a whole. It's not. It's a Division 3. The coach is not great, but you got to watch it. Um,
Okay.
yeah, he
All
like
right.
does a bunch of references and like tries to say he's like your ass is grass, but he like gets it wrong. It's a hilarious movie. Watch it,
Okay.
but it won't hype you up for anything, but it's
It's a
hilarious.
good laugh.
Yeah, it's a
I
good
got you. I
laugh.
got you.
But cool, man. No, thank you for spending time. Good catching up with you. And yeah, any message? I know you have a message for your team, but something cool. What's a message that you want to send to the state about Monzano? What were your players? This is what, or at least to your class, right? To
Yeah.
say, hey, here, this is who we are, right? This is the type of football that we're gonna play. Is there an attribute, a character, or something that you want a message and like, damn, okay, this is what Monzano is now.
You know what? I think at the end of the day, right, if when teams get ready to play us, right, or after they've played us and they're, kind of evaluating how that game went, regardless of win or loss, I hope that the plan, for Manzano is that we gain that respect back, from the state. Manzano used to be one of the power programs in the state. They used to compete for championships all the time. They produce great players, and there's no reason why we can't get back to that. Right now we're at the 4A level, so to me, we're going to be accountable. We're going to be disciplined. our players are going to be coached well, and no matter who it is, how big, how fast, how strong, with their record, we're going to show up trying to go win a game. And I was never the biggest guy. I played with guys who were smaller than me, and it didn't matter who we played. We were going to out tough them. They're going to knock us down a few times, but at the end of the day, we were going to be the one kind of standing in the fourth quarter. If you don't put us away and you let us kind of stay in that game, we're going to have a shot. And it's like Coach Miller used to always say, man, and I've tried to live this: is we'll play you in the parking lot. It don't matter. We're going to get after it. And that's kind of the mindset that we have to have moving forward. We're going to be tough. We're going to be physical. We're going to be fast, but we'll play you anywhere, Monday through Saturday, and let's get it on.
Twice on Sunday, baby. Let's get it.
Yeah, yeah, that's it's the Lord's Day, so I'll yeah, but yeah, we'll see what happens, but yeah, so no, I'm excited, man. I can't wait to get to work with those kids, and I'm just fired up for the opportunity that Monzano's given me, and the belief in myself, and hope to prove them right. Right now we got to go put in the work, so just can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, we were all rooting for you to come home and get one of these job openings that were here. But the Lord works in mysterious ways. It is what it is. You're young. Go win a couple state championships and not only prove them right, but prove everyone else wrong as well. So I'm rooting for you. I know everyone out here. You're from Cruces. We won't forget where you came from, and excited to see
Hmm.
you. Luckily, we don't have too many teams around here that'll be playing you guys, at least not in the playoffs. So
Right.
we need to figure out a way to play you guys.
Yeah.
One off. One time we come visit you guys, another one we'll go over there and play y'all. One of the schools that got to do it. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But either way, we'll make sure we're following you and keeping our community updated on what you're doing because yeah,
Yeah.
it's big news, man. I'm excited for you, man.
Thank you, man. I'm excited, and you guys have been, behind my in my corner this whole time, so it means a lot, and the support, so doesn't go unnoticed, doesn't go unappreciated. Super grateful, and we're gonna have to get you guys up there, for a game, and maybe hold one of your podcasts there in our locker room, or
That'd be
there
cool.
on our field, or we can do stuff.
Okay, good thing we got most of that. But yeah, no, let's we could do something, especially football, even in the summertime. That'd be really cool to go up there and do something. See what, if there's a weekend even that Jacob goes up there personally and is doing something where we can kind of show here's the program that he's running and what he's doing. Maybe we can collaborate in that way so he can kind of showcase what he can provide for other schools because I don't know if anyone is using I don't know if anybody is using him the way you kind of explained it in this area. I know some of the players, but they got to do it on their own, right? They go to him. Um, so
Um, Yeah, I know he's partnered with some programs. It's something that I think people are fearful of it because it's different, right? And
yeah,
I think sometimes when you've done some stuff for so long and you're successful, why change, right? But I think to me, you got to adapt, right? Like football's football; it's played the same way, but there's new things, new rules, new ways of taking advantage of things, and you have to adapt. And I think it goes the same in strength and conditioning, right? I
yeah,
think the days of the pyramid schemes, the let's do a 10-8-6-4-2-1, and I think that's good, but I think there's other ways of doing it, other ways that are more beneficial sometimes to players. So
yeah.
Jacob and his team do a great job. So
Cool. Well, I appreciate it, brother, man. Uh, and I'll be keeping an eye out on what you guys are doing. If you run across the next one of those hats, that M with the crown on top is pretty cool. Hit me up if you
oh,
get
I
a
know,
picture of it.
man. I got to get some more gear myself, man.
Yeah,
The baseball
get
coach
your
hooked
get
this
yourself
up, and
set.
so I was telling the AD, I'm like, man, I need a shirt, man. Give me something. So we're getting to work on all that. But yeah, no, you guys come up and slide you guys some gear, and you guys can represent down south, and it'll be exciting. So
Cool,
thank you,
man.
Frankie.
All right, brother, man. Take care.
All right, bro.